Welcome back everyone. Welcome back to the lab session 5. So this session we will deal with data publication and visualization. Sir, over to you.
Jyotima, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. So this is the session that where we will be showing you mostly. We will be focusing on the visualization, but of course we have in several sessions that we have already covered the visualization. We have tried to show you the flavors of different tools that we demoed. So already you have seen the visualization, but now with this current tool that we are going to show in this session, we will be explicitly focusing on that. And then of course this is because visualization is relatively a very small part of it, but beside that also we will be showing you the kind of SparkQL endpoint that we were talking in this 2 days in various sessions, into the technical talks that I delivered. Even last session also I was talking about it. So it's basically that publication access, that if we want to give if you want to allow or give access to your data, that graph data that you produce, that we said that there are two possible ways that as we can understand, that one is that either you dump it somewhere and so that people can download and use it, or you make it available through some through as a service, as a web service you give, and that's what that SparkQL endpoint helps us to do that. And this tool that we are going to demo is also can be used for that purposes. And this tool is powerful in a sense because this not only gives you the access to the data, but it also enables you to visualize your data. And that's the reason that we have selected that tool out of this various others. So we are going to demo that. And yeah, I think right now we are targeting that, and if we achieve that, and then we may think of further extending and presenting something new or something more of that tool. Okay, so Jyotima, you may start. And so here is our student. So she has newly joined. I mean, she's of course was our earlier master student. Now she has joined as a PhD student, and she will be presenting this graph data lab session, but I will be also with her to help her that various aspects wherever required. I will get into that presentation. So Jyotima, you may start.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So I'll share my screen because
Yeah, I
it's
should make you
little noisy.
yeah, wait, so I should make you the co-host. And also you, if it is better that if you can switch on your video.
Okay, okay. Yes, sir. You gave me the permission to
Yes, yes,
share
yes, yes,
this
yes.
screen.
I have made you the co-host, so you can share.
So is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So firstly, I'll share the link from where we have to download this software,
I think
GraphB.
it is okay. Okay, fine.
Or okay.
Actually, they know already this, so
Okay. They can download it from here.
I think they have already. Is there anyone that installed it? Because I think yesterday we sent you the material and asked you to install. So can we? Is there anyone that has already installed, or none of you? Oh yes, some of them has already installed. Yeah, so that means it's fine. So yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'll tell, I mean, in brief only, I'll just tell how to install it.
Okay.
So you have to download this GraphDB free from this graphdb.ontotext.com. I have already shared the link in the chat. You can download this free version from here. And when you click on the download, you will be redirected to download this, and a form kind of thing will come. So you need to fill it and then request GraphDB free. So whichever mail ID you fill here, in that you will get a mail within, I mean, seconds only you will get a mail. So from there you need to download the standalone version. So I'll show you my here. GraphDB is there. They have already sent the link. From here you can just download this, download as a standalone server, this one. It is available as a desktop, desktop icon also, but no need for that. You can download the standalone version. It is platform independent. So now you need to go to the command line and go to the folder where the GraphDB is downloaded. So for me, it is public GraphDB. Inside that also one GraphDB folder is there. So you need to go there, and inside this bin folder will be there. So you need to go there and just execute the file. Your GraphDB will start. Just execute the file.
Yeah, by the way, so remember that those are not having this Ubuntu, you don't have to worry. Just you need to unzip it like the way you did it for Protege. Like you know that you right clicked, extract files, and then you extract the files in a particular directory. So all your files will be shown under that GraphDB with the version number like GraphDB free and then version number, let's say 9.5.1. And under that, if you go, you will find a subdirectory called bin. And if you go to that bin, then you will see this particular files that she is right now showing on the Linux platform. That is sh file here, but there you will get at the bat file or as an executable file. So you can just run that by double click it. So it's the same process actually. It's very simple.
Once you execute the file,
Any question?
you need to.
Sir, actually, I have downloaded the window versions, not the
That's
standalone.
fine. So just you need to extract it and put it in a C drive or somewhere you like, and just go to the bin directory, and that's all. And but remember that you must have the Java installed in your system. So Java must be running.
Okay. So for this, I mean, a desktop version, you need Java, but if you download the standalone version, oh, sorry, I just made it opposite. In the standalone server, you need the Java, but if this desktop version you're downloading, you don't need Java for that.
So Susmita, you can just enter it.
Sir, I have done that, and I have
just
also
go to the
opened
bin.
The browser also.
Let me open my window also. I think let me open my window. No, it's not in my desktop.
So should I continue?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. So what I'm saying that the installation actually is not here, is not a crucial thing. So you work in the same way like you do for you did for Protige. Okay. So just what you do, you just enter and double click. You should be able to see this interface. Okay, and only thing is that again this one another thing she did, that is like admin interface, but if you have not set up anything you won't see that. So don't worry about that, again that login interface. Okay. Uh, yeah, please you may go ahead, Jyotima.
Yeah. So in the browser, you need to go to port 7200, localhost 7200. Okay. You will see this kind of interface. I think all of
Okay,
you are with me in this.
Jyotima, so there is a request from Dr. Bornali that just to repeat the process. So
Okay.
actually we haven't done anything yet. It's just we have opened up the interface by running the software, and that basically is she's doing from the Ubuntu system. So she had to run the sh file, as you know already that as you are so. But if you are on the Windows platform, just enter it wherever you want to keep that directory, keep it, and then just execute under the bin directory. There is one GraphDB server. Just you double click the main it will run on 7200 port. So you have to just go to the browser, just say localhost colon 7200, it will be up. So, but if you have not yet downloaded, then it will take some time because you have to fill up their form. Then you will receive a link through email. Then only you will be able to download. And that's the reason yesterday itself we forwarded the possible this help document, that so that you could do in advance. So if any of you have not done, please do it side by side. Okay, we have, this is a long session, 2 hour session, so possibly we should be able to still do it. Yeah, so one participant has wrote that Mr. Avilas, that we all can refer to installation PPT sent yesterday. It's very clear. Yeah, thanks. So I
Yeah.
think that's very clear actually. Anyone can refer to that. Yes.
So
Yeah, you may proceed, Jyotima.
yeah, this kind of interface you will get. So the first thing that you have to do is to go to setup and go to repositories and create a new repository.
Wait, go little slow, step by
Okay.
step, because some of them may be opening. So
Okay.
little slow. Yeah.
So go to setup and repositories. There you will find this icon, create new repositories. There are some repositories that I have already created, but for you there will be one option, create new repository. So you can click on that and enter repository ID and title. uh,
So those are just opening. So in your main interface you will see the blank. Okay, because when you open when you log into that localhost colon 7200, you will see an empty interface, right? And but in the left hand side you will see all the menus. The first job would be to set up your system as usual, right? And there you have to just as she is now showing that the first job would be to set up a repository. Okay, so repository means that where you can deposit all your that data files, that graph data that you have, you can upload it there. Okay, and that is what right now she is doing. But in her interface, since earlier she practiced, so that's why we could see some of the repositories already there. And now she is actually configuring a repository. So
okay.
Jyotima, please go
So
little slow.
yeah. Okay, sir. Okay. So you should enter the same repository ID and repository title, because in future, while when you are trying to upload data offline, you have to use the repository ID, and that time it might create confusion, that ID and title name if it is different. So for safer side, you can just use the same title for repository ID and repository title. So here I'll use demo 1. So rest you don't have to change anything, just scroll down and click on create button and your repository will be created. As you can see here, it is showing demo 1 for me, and from here on the top right hand side corner, you can change the repository name. Whichever repository you want to work on, you can change it. Like I want to work on demo 1, which I just created. So I'll select that demo 1. So now I am in demo 1 repository. Now, when you click on this home GraphDB, you will see that repository name is mentioned demo1, and there are total 70 statements. These are some default statements that are there in the repository. And when you upload data, these number of statements will increase. These are default statements. You don't have to worry about it. This is present for all of you. I think all of you are with me in this. Shall I proceed further?
Just wait for if anyone wants to say anything. Please, if you have any problem, okay, some of them said yes. Okay, yeah, we can proceed. Yes.
Okay. So now the step will be to import data. So when you click on import, you will get two options. One is RDF, the other is tabular data. So first we'll see RDF data, how to import RDF data. Once you click on this RDF, you'll have three options. You can upload any way, upload RDF data files or from a URL, or you can just import a text snippet RDF text snippet. So I'll be uploading this RDF files. This RDF file that I'll be uploading is already shared with you. I think now only it was shared. It's named RDF data. So this kind of file will be there. You can download it and upload it, RDF data. Once you do this, you have to click on import and click on import again, and it will be imported. So it shows that it is imported successfully in less than a second.
Wait.
Yeah.
So the question is that which file is RDF data? So the thing is that, madam, here you can even that the just in the previous session you worked with that into ontology. You can even upload that data also. So anything that's also RDF data, because whether it is OWL file, RDF XML file, or whether it is in turtle format, so all are RDF data. So you can just, madam, use any of the data that available. Okay. So you can use that file from the previous session as well. Or the file just shared few minutes ago before this session, there also you will find this rdfdata.ttl file is there.
Okay, so I think all of you must have imported the RDF data. Now you can go on the home, click on graph DB, and you will see that total number of statements have changed. That means that you successfully uploaded your data.
If anyone has done that, please say yes, either on chat box or you can unmute. Or if you have any question, or if you are unable to do, please let us know.
Yes, sir.
Done? Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. So yeah, let's proceed slowly.
Yeah, so here one view resource icon is, the search bar is there. So I am also using the same data that was, that you used in the previous session. So there was one entity named Arun. So when I typed AR, I can't see, predictions are not
Jyotima,
coming.
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Predictions are not coming. autocomplete is not coming. So once you go to the setup is there, you can go there, and there one option is there, autocomplete, third last option. You can click on that and switch it on. Once you switch it on, go back again to GraphDB, and now when you start typing, you see that it is showing that Arun name it's showing with the IRI.
Yeah, so the idea is here that by clicking that autocomplete is basically you make it enable that that the data that we are uploading, so that gets indexed, so that whenever we search for that resource, we can easily see that it's appears here. Otherwise, that doesn't happen. So first time when we are doing it, so we have to make it autocomplete so that next time onwards it will be doing by its own.
Yeah. So whenever you create a new
Yeah,
repository,
there is a
make a
question.
new.
I think there is
Okay.
a question. Yes, please.
how to how to open active repository? How
Sorry,
to show this screen? How to show this screen active repository?
your voice is not clear.
How can
That
how can I show this active repository screen?
okay. For that, you have to go on the right hand side corner. Can you see my cursor? There you will
Yes.
see that whatever repositories you have created, that will come. So you can choose the repository that you created or you want to work in.
So when first time you are adding only one repository, then you don't have to really, because on that space, the moment you get into the system, there is only one repository. So it will be always, you will be on that repository. But when you have added already multiple repositories, like in this case, so you have to actually change the repository. Okay. So that time you need to go there and just change the repository that you would like to work on. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Now you got it right. Thank you. Okay. Jyotima, please proceed.
Yes, sir. So now we go to the explore option, and everything that leads you to viewing data without writing any SparkQL query, you'll find it here, like your class hierarchy, graph overview, the relationship among the class, and visual graph. You'll find it here. You don't have to write any SparkQL query for that. You just have to click it. So once you click on graph overview, you will see this default graph option. Once you click on this, you will see all the prefixes, all the entities that are there. You will see the subject, predicate, object. Everything you will see it in the default graph.
And here one more thing to say, just Jyotima, wait there on the
Yeah.
screen. So you see that this data, like just in the last session, we worked on that Amrita or Arun like that. So Amrita, like enrolled in MSLIS, right? And this is the GraphDT functionality that it also creates a like an context, so which is like it says whether explicit, because these are the asserted facts. So anyway, so you can see that there is a triple, always there are RDF data like Amrita enrolled MSLIS, Amrita has affiliation DRTC, Amrita qualification BTech. So we can see the data in a tabular format. So we are able to visualize also the data as a tabular data here. Okay, as the triples, the way that we have encrypted or expressed them in our knowledge base. Yeah, please go ahead.
So next option is class hierarchy. Once you click on this, you will see this diagram, and you can see this fourth person is a class, and inside that there is a subclass called faculty, and these two classes are separate, that are department and courses. So when you see that diagram, it depicts the hierarchy of the imported RDF classes. If the data doesn't have any hierarchy, the RDF class will be visualized as separate circles. Like I told you, this faculty is inside the class person, is a subclass of the class person. So if you don't have any hierarchy in your data, then all these these classes will come in a separate circle and it won't be nested. So in our data, there are total 4 classes.
Jyotima, just we wait for the participants whether they are able to get into this page.
Yeah.
Anyone, please, you can respond. Anyone have the problem to reach to this page or see this kind of visualization? No, I got this graph. Okay, great. So you got it. So I think, yes, we can proceed. At least one has
So-
responded. Okay.
Going to the class relationships, you will see a kind of diagram here also with the links that are there. I mean, for person, there are 13 links, departments, there are 5 links. Once you click on the this diagram, this thicker circle is for persons, as number of links here are also more. So the diagram shows the top relationship where each of them is a bundle of links between the individual instances of 2 classes. Each link is an RDF statement where the subject is the instance of one class and the object is the instance of the other class. And the link is the predicate. These links are the predicates that are joining them. So depending on the number of links that are there, in the number of links between the instances of 2 classes, the bundle gets thicker or thinner and gets the color of the class with more incoming links. I think all of you have reached this visualization. So these 4 classes depict, 4 colors in this diagram depict the 4 different classes that we have. Like this one depicts the person, this one is the faculty, this one is courses, and this one is per-
Departments.
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 Yeah, department.
Yeah, actually, why the size is different? Like person is half circle and
Okay, I just told you that depending on the number of links between the
links.
instances of 2 classes, the bundle gets thicker and thinner.
And the white portion, what that depicts?
Okay, person is thicker because it has 13 links.
No, she
No,
is
the
asking for
white
the
portion.
white part. That's basically the intersection.
Yeah.
So that's why. So there are some common kind of commonalities. Okay. You can hover the mouse on the any one of the color. This one, yeah.
Yeah,
And see that what it, yeah, you see, madam, here it says like 4 person, and then its connection it has with the departments, and then has affiliation. So some links, some 5 links it shows with the affiliation, that is actually with some these units or divisions, right? Similarly, if you bring the mouse, let us say on the blue one, you bring that maybe on the departments you bring mouse, you can hover the mouse on the
yeah, sir.
any of the other, yeah, you see here. So it has like the person, it's connected this person and has that supervisor. So here like it's saying that a person had supervisor some another person.
Yes, yes, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on, we'll go to the visual graph.
This in fact go to that previous screen.
Okay.
So if you look at that box, so there are like list of classes, right? And then you
Yes.
have the number of links listed, and then next to that you see that there are outer links and inner links are there. So for the class person, you have the outer and inner links. Okay. Yeah, you can click on maybe incoming and out. Now you see that there is the direction is only. So these are the different views that you can see that how many inner links, like links coming inside. Okay. What is saying that there is no relation in white area, please click incoming. Yes. Okay. So saying that, yeah. So it's like incoming, and now you click on outgoing. Yeah. You see that from the person that links are going outgoing, whereas for the departments and courses, faculties, these are not showing anything. Jyotima, you have uploaded only this partial data, right?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you upload and show the more data that we have? This the OWL file.
Okay.
Yeah, let me yeah, otherwise let me put it on the drive. So maybe that would be easy, so that we see more number of links, so that the visualization would give a better impact, right? So just wait. So I will just share that. I will upload that file. Um, just a moment. So let me do that. So shall save and save that. Okay, and then I just how do I share with you? By, shall I send it by email? I have to log into the Semtech directory. Okay, then okay, let me log into the Semtech directory, and just give me a moment.
Which one is it? I will upload it from the drive itself.
No, just I'm going to upload it on the drive. Just wait a second. Just a second. Just I'm going to upload it there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to upload it on that GraphDB preloaded, that files that we have, no resources for participants, preloaded files, GraphDB. I'm going to upload it that file that we generated in our last session. Okay. So just a second. Today is 24th and this is 4/28. Okay. Now I have uploading. Yeah, it's now uploaded. You can download that and then you can create a new project and you see that whether it gets uploaded there.
Okay.
And yeah, and the participants that you have already, like in the last session that you did this data integration, so the same file I've shared, but by chance if you don't have, so you go to the same link that few minutes ago Udaya Bharadajan shared with you. Go to the same link and download this file. This has that all this Orun and that Prakash that we did that integration the last session. This file includes that also.
Sir, there is one more option to upload data. So should I show that?
No, right now let us go with this same process.
Okay. I'll just upload the data.
Yeah. You can do that same demo one. You can use that same repository. You can use, just you replace the data with the new data set. Or even if you want to create another repository, it's fine. Go ahead. Anything is fine. Yes. Okay, good.
Yes, sir. I imported the data. Now we'll go to the class hierarchy.
Yeah. You may would like to check that auto one, that setup.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, auto complete. Yeah, you make it on. Yes. Yeah, let it to build. So you see that it's building the index for this data set because this is a new data set that we uploaded. Yeah, now you go to there.
Class here.
Yeah. Now you see that it gives you the more granular view of the data. So you may go to the other, yeah, you can show that also. You can zoom in and show.
This domain range is also available. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, I would say that first you go to that where we were actually in previous data set,
Okay.
class relationships. So because that's
Okay,
where
okay.
that we thought of, there were some kind of confusions. Yeah, you now see that how this data actually comes in, and you have, because here we have the large amount of data, and we can see the variations, that how it's actually working, so many incoming and outgoing links, right? So maybe you can select the person and just hover your mouse there and just see the person. Yeah. Yeah, you see that how it shows, but of course this is not a person. I think this is center. Yeah, but that's okay. Anyone is fine, because this is just to show that how the visualization works here. So here the good idea is that as we are talking about that in our tech talk, that visualization, see, you have this multiple views of the same data, and the way you want it to be manipulated, you can do it. So that's it's not a static view of the data, right? So this is the one of the advantage of this graph data view, that as you want it to be visualized, whatever the data point you want to include, you don't want to include, you can do it on real time. You don't have to, produce and store it. That's the advantage. Yeah, you can proceed.
Yeah. So once we go to this visual graph, and with the same data we are proceeding, or sir, should I change the data back to the smaller one?
I think this is fine. This is fine.
Okay, okay. So once I type, one of the students' name was Jaydev, faculty Jaydev. So it came because of autocomplete is on. So this came and I clicked on it, and so I can see the links among the entities.
Yeah. You see here, Jaidev is the main in the center point. So here the graph actually is like the source node, the target node is here actually the Jaidev. And now we see all the data points, other data points side. So click on Jaidev, Jyotima.
Okay.
Yeah, and you see on the right side, there is a pop-up menu. So it's basically showing you the data property values. So that's in the graph, what you are seeing, that in the actual visualization that we are seeing. So it only brings that wherever that your the object nodes are also a kind of resource, but the pop-up menu that actually displays the data values and data properties and their values. Like say, for example, their mbox, that means email ID. Then you have the address, the date of birth. So these were, as you remember that in our Excel file, they were just as a data property. So we are seeing this as a separate window. And for all the data nodes, those are actually the data nodes, okay, resource nodes that we are seeing in a graph, and which is a beautiful thing, that we can actually even expand it, and we can traverse the software agent, or even we manually can actually traverse from one data point to the another data point. Yeah, you see that how it's
We can
expanding.
expand it.
Exactly. Yeah, you can probably show couple of expansion, couple of more expansions you can do, like how they say, for example, like say Bimal Kumar or some any other data node you pick up and just expand it. And you can probably focus on to a now particular some link little bit. You can your screen you can zoom in, And
Yes, sir.
so, yeah. Maybe ISIBC you node expanded, ISIBC node. And we see that, yeah, on the left side, yeah,
Yeah,
we expand
got
it. So you see that how complex that graph is becoming, because now a lot of people are connected to that ISIBC, and it's basically expanding in that way. And it's, you can from that data point itself, and if some data points you don't want to see anymore, like you just want to collapse them, yes, you can collapse them. Okay, just simply click on the cross and then we can just collapse it. Yeah, cross last one, the down bottom one, so that we close that DRTC no, yeah, no side. Yeah, let that, yes. Okay, so from there we don't want that any connection, so we collapse it. Right now we can only focus on only ISIBC. So we can, you see that this is the traversal that we can actually move from one node to another node. We can explore the resources that we want to. So we can always move around to this graph. You see,
There are certain entities that have two predicates, so that is also showing when you hover on it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So like here ISBC, so it has that TSS K Rao, Professor TSS K Rao. He is affiliated with ISIBC, and he is also the center of ISIBC, center head of ISIBC. Yeah. So it has these two nodes connecting to the same data nodes. Anyone has any question, or you want to uh, say anything? Anyone? Okay, someone is saying that top right save graph snapshot. Yeah, you can save it. Of course, there is on the right corner that save button is there. You can always do that. Yes, it's as you wish. So you can zoom in, zoom out, and you can go back to this previous node. Yeah. Okay, so I think there are no other questions. So you may proceed to the next.
Okay, sir. So now we move on to SPARQL queries. So SPARQL queries, sir, I'll do it in that data that I previously uploaded.
Okay,
I'll
okay, fine. Okay, go ahead. Change
change the
the,
record.
yeah.
So this is our first SPARQL queries. It will display all subject and objects which are related using the predicate given name. So here you can see select subject object, where subject and object should have are related with the predicate given name. So if I run it, I'll get these results. Arun, Jaydev, Amrita, Prakash and Benjamin. For this, you can't view it as Google chart, or you don't have any option for configuration because the data doesn't match for any charts. You can't do it. If you even select it, it will say that the required data format for the this thing doesn't match the current data. The second query that we are making is to select all the entities in the class person. So once we run it, we'll again get the same result because these are the 5 people that are there in the class person. Third SPARQL query is select the subject and object who have teaching experience. So as you are all aware of the tabular data, some people had teaching experience. So once you run it, you'll see that Jaydev and Prakash have teaching experience, and it is 7 and 3 years. Once this will show, in this query, we will display all the subject and object who have qualification. So all will come because all have qualifications. In the fifth one, we will use count because we need to group it. So in this query, we will group the subjects having the same qualifications. Like as you saw in the tabular data, some 2-3 people had BSc, 2 people had BTech. So once we run it, we see it that BSc 2 people have, PhD 2 people have, and BTech 1 person has. So now when you go to Google Chart and click on chart config and select pie chart, you can see that it is showing that 20% of people have BTech, 20% of people have BTech, 40% have BSc, and 40% have PhD. Are you all with me in this? Can you do this? Or sir, should I share the queries that I'm doing in the chat box so that they can also do it? You can try 1 or 2 queries. I have already made. Oh, sorry, I forgot to send the prefix. And the sixth query that we have is a regex query, in which we will be selecting entities which are starting with letter A. So if you put this two hat symbol, that means starts with A. The name will start with A. And if you remove these two hat symbols from here, it means that the name should have A somewhere. Like Jaydev is there, so that will also come if you remove this two hat symbols from here. And I here is used for case insensitivity. I mean, even if it is from capital letter or small letter, the name will come. And S is to regain the sensitivity, and by default also it is case sensitive. If you don't put I, it will be case sensitive.
Jyotima, that part anyway, leave it because tomorrow we have this session, so they may not.
Sir, you are not audible.
Every time. Okay, sorry. So what I'm saying that maybe that SparkQL query part you leave it, just copy paste those queries only, so
Okay.
that they can run and see that the Google
Okay.
chart they can run on that and see the result, that how
I'll
it's coming. Yeah.
copy paste the queries in the chat box.
Prefix you don't, is it required every time? Okay.
Once I did it, so they can
I
copy
think they
paste.
can copy paste because
Yeah.
so I request the participants that once you first that query you copy paste, every time you just replace the query part, not the prefix part. So prefix part will remain there on your all the queries. You just change the query. That's it. So then you don't have to every time copy paste the all the prefixes.
I have shared some 4-5 queries, I think.
Yeah. we are not sure that whether the participants are doing along with us. So anyone, please, if you are doing, just let us know that yes, or in no form, or you may unmute yourself and can speak out. So this what that interface that right now you are working on, that the SparkQL queries you are making. So this is actually the interface that what you get for your SparkQL endpoint that I was talking about previously. That so even if you want your data to be made accessible, so you can you can have this same thing here, so that anyone from outside, of course it has to be on the internet. Right now this is on local system, so I cannot directly get into that system. But if it is available on the way, I mean if you install it on the internet on your server, then that becomes itself your SparkQL endpoint, and that you already have seen that how to upload your data so that you make that data available for others. Okay. And since data is an incremental process, so you will be doing on different occasions, so it should not be any issue, because every time you want to add your data, either you put it everything in a single repository, or if you want to create multiple repositories also, no problem. Like in this demo that we saw, that couple of like 2 demo repositories we created, and earlier also she had. So if you want also to make a queries to across all the repositories that you have in backend system, it still absolutely wouldn't be any issue with the SparkQL query, provided that you know the syntax, because in this case we have to use the SparkQL queries. That, and of course we should have that idea that tomorrow you are going to learn some of the things, like say union comment that you will be learning, which will help you out to actually integrate these various data points coming from the different repositories. This is, you see that of course the point is here that all the data repositories, all the data points actually are here in one single server, but not necessarily that it has to be in a single system. It can be in multiple places. So what is important here, that the prefix, that how do you basically connect to the other data repositories, and that's the only the mechanism. And of course that again, that through the SparkQL, that we can always do that. Okay. So this shows your data publication. This shows you that how your users, I mean, they themselves actually can visualize their data. Okay. So with this one tool, we can actually give them all sort of access to our data, all these various ways that they can play around. Of course, they have to know the SparkQL. That's the typical part of it, because if you want to really extract the data, you have to have that skill of writing the SparkQL queries. Is there anyone? There are no response from the participants, so we are not sure. Yes, sir, you may continue. Okay, so you may proceed, Jyotima. So I
Yeah.
think they all of them got it.
So
Great. So
should I proceed with user and access, or should I
uh,
show GeoSparkQL also?
uh, yeah, I think, yeah, you can go ahead with that. I think, shall we show then the mapping, since time is there little? Huh?
Mapping we can show, but before that, this GeoSparkQL queries and stuff.
Okay, okay, fine.
And
Yeah.
users also, I mean, repository manager and this thing, user, this kind.
Okay, we can quickly then show that only. Yeah.
go to setup, and in this there is an option user and access. So I have already created 3 user. One is the administrator, one is the repository manager, and one is the user. So once you go here, security, I can turn it off. And once I go here, and this, I click on repository manager. So you can see that administrator may use GraphDB, read and write all repository. I mean, administrator have all the facilities in this. Repository manager is only responsible for the repositories. I mean, all the repositories. He can create, delete any repository. He can manage access monitoring he can do, and he can read and write all the repository. Whereas the user, you can control. I mean, you can control the access that is to be granted to him. So if you click on user here, you can, I mean, choose that which repository he should read only permission should be there, and which write permission should be given for the user. So if you turn on, save it here. If you turn on this security right now is off. If you turn it on, then you have to log in. You can sign in. You can sign in. And like in this, user has no,
Jyotima,
I mean,
Jyotima,
yes,
I
sir.
think let's go slow. I don't think that the others are able to create so fast the users. So let
Okay.
them, we have time. So we have almost like another almost like 45 minutes time we have. So let's go slow. Let them to create at least one user, each of them, and test it that how it really works. So we can wait for them.
So once we go on.
So I request the participant, please you try with creating at least a user and feel that how that actually works, because I think the moment you used your browser and gave that address like localhost 7200, I think without giving any user ID password you could see that interface, right? But you may always want to make it secure. So let's do it, that how to make as an admin user, and then how to create some other users that who can possibly read, and or who can possibly have the access only to only to some specific repositories. So you can basically try out at least 1 or 2 instances, and if you have any problem, please let us know.
You just have to click on this create new user, and if you want it to be the administrator, you have to choose here which role you want, user, repository manager, or administrator. So I choose repository, oh sorry, user 1, password, and I choose it to be user. So once you have to confirm the password here, and here you have to give the access for which you want read access. Like for demo 1, I want only read access for the user, and demo 2 he can write it. For demo 1 he doesn't. And for GeoSparQL, no, he has no right, only read write he has. And now once I click on create, my user 1 is create. So now to show you that how this user 1 will, once I choose the repository, I choose the GeoSparQL repository and change the user. I log out and log in as, oh, I didn't save it. So here I can see that you have no permission to access this functionality with your current credentials. When I go for doing any query, it is GeoSparQL repository and I only gave the read write to it. So once I want to make any changes, I can't do any changes because error comes and it says that you don't have permission to execute this query. Ask your admin for support. You can't make any changes. These are the only two repositories that you have access to. It is showing here these two only. Three, sorry. I think all of you are here with me.
Yeah. Proceed.
Okay. So we'll go to this GeoSparQL. Before that, I'll tell what is GeoSparQL. So there are a number of plugins available in this GraphDB, but this GeoSparQL and Geospatial are important ones. So I'll tell you about GeoSparQL. GeoSparQL query will work on geographical data, and you should have some spatial data objects, spatial data for this. So there are two. You have to enable the GeoSparQL plugin, and then you need to check it that whether it is working or not. And if you don't want it to, if you're not doing any GeoSparQL query, you can even disable it. So the example that we will be using, and I also have shared the data, it is this spatial objects are arranged in this way. Can you see? You can see on my screen.
Yeah,
There's,
it's coming.
yeah. So these spatial objects are there. They are, arranged in a specific way. So this is the data that we'll be using, and our query will be to find all features that touch the union of feature A and feature D, where computations are based on exact geometry. So now I'll go back to my graph deep. Yeah, here, and I go to my GeoSparQL repository, because there you can upload the GeoSparQL data in geographical data in any repository. I already have it in GeoSparQL repository. That is why I went to that repository. But you can upload it in any repository the same way that we uploaded the previous data. Upload RDF files, you need to upload it and then import it. Are you all there with me till here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So once you import this data, it was already imported, but I imported it again. And you go to the SparkQL query, and this query is to check whether your GeoSparkQL is on or not. So once I run it, it is saying that GeoSparkQL is enabled true. You can see here it is written true. So that means our GeoSparkQL is enabled. So this query was to enable the query. Okay, I'll share these queries with you to enable the GeoSparkQL query. Control. This is to enable it, and then this one is to, okay, this is,
Jyotima,
yes, sir.
we have to actually, since we are asking them to run the queries, so we have to also share with them the geo data, right? Just otherwise,
That
no,
was
that
there.
no, yeah, that's what. So we have to show them that. I think some of them didn't get it.
Okay. So
It was shared, madam. So you can look at our that preloaded files.
Yeah, it's named geosparquel-example3.
Can I just interrupt? I have not received this link for GraphDB. I received it for the previous whatever was there, the class. For this lab session, I have not received this. That's why I'm not able to find the files.
Madam, we have shared that in this chat box only. So maybe you are not there. Maybe we can again we can share. Please upload the link.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so already Susmita has shared that link. Yeah, you can use any of that, Susmita or Udaya, whatever they send.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, so you can, yeah, Jyotima, you may proceed.
Yeah, so you have to upload the geosparquel data. Without uploading, these queries won't work.
So again, you have to create a repository. Let us say you create a fresh repository with the name of like say GeoSparkle, and then you after creation you upload the data, and then don't forget to change it to as an active repository, that is GeoSparkle. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay.
Two links I have shared. One is to enable the GeoSparkle plugin. Query I have shared. One is to enable the GeoSparkle query, GeoSparkle plugin, and one is to check whether the plugin is enabled or not.
Shall we proceed? Anyone, please? If you are done, anyone is done, please let us know. Or if you have anyone have that problem, please that also let us know. There are no responses, so we just wait for a couple of seconds. Okay. Yeah, you can proceed.
Yeah. So this is the query that we'll be doing to find the point that touches the union of A and D. So I'll share this query also. Here, once I run it, it shows me that C is the point that touches union of A and D and has exact geometry also. Here.
Yeah, of course, that GeoSparkle actually to use that data, one thing that can we do Sparkle part after tomorrow's? Yeah, so actually, madam here that, yeah, that's what I was telling that we basically don't have to get into the query at this session. It's basically here that how this tool can be used. So here, that's why we are supplying these queries, because you don't have to really understand the query right now. You don't have to understand the syntax. So you copy paste and you see that you feel that, okay, how it works. And then once tomorrow's session on this Sparkle is done, I think then you would be able to also at least write some basic queries. So in that case, just you can follow the same process and you can run. So this session just to show you that, demo you that tool, that why you required. And we kept this session before the Sparkle because that we wanted you to feel that why we need the Sparkle, what are the different places that we may need that Sparkle query. So that's the idea. So that's why we have a ready-made queries for you. Just copy paste, fill the system. so that once you learn the SPARQL, then you can just, because this particular tool really doesn't have much relation with the SPARQL other than it, because this tool considers that if I am going to make a query, I know already the SPARQL. So I think this is fine. Just please copy paste those queries and see that how it affects. And coming back to this this GeoSPARQL, actually this is little difficult to sense, that I am not sure that whether every one of us really can, because that GeoSPARQL is a kind of very special kind of data set, and that's really relatively, I think, complex event, so we need to understand the uses of it. So I think this just to show again this, that there are several plugins are available for DBPD, for GraphDB, and this is one of them, that we can use this, we can utilize this extension for the the work that where we may need the merging of this GeoSPARQL, that where we may have to be make it more spatial related queries, and we need a very special type of data set for that. So this data set also, what he has shared with you, it's basically is like a handcrafted a small piece of data, but it's not a very good data, but you can always look for some other SPARQL data. But only this is just to communicate that if anyone has a special need with that, then they can actually use that. So that's the only purpose of showing this this particular module.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry about the SPARQL. I hope that tomorrow session you will be able to, at least you will be able to write some very basic queries, if not the advanced complex queries, but some basic queries you should be able to surely do it, which will be simpler. Some patterns will be, and also, by the way, so we have already shared with you some study material yesterday, and that file actually includes the set of SPARQL queries, that one PowerPoint presentation that we have shared from my last presentation last month in a workshop, that presentation that I had on SPARQL queries. So we have already shared with you a bunch of SPARQL queries. You can even try by your own. For that, what you have to do, you have already the into ontology. You just open it up using that Protege, and use that SPARQL, that one tab is there, as you know already. So you just activate that tab and just copy paste those queries. You will be able to at least have some basic idea about the SPARQL queries, so that tomorrow when you go through that session, I think it is going to help you out in that. I think all of you have received that reference material, right? So please look at their, in that directory, you will find that SPARQL presentation in that. Okay. Yeah, please, Jyotima, please go ahead.
Sir, I think we are done with the major part. So if
Yeah.
on to refine, we could
Yeah,
explore.
quickly, some couple of some 2-3 points we saw, and then yeah.
Yeah. So
Because I think its material is becoming heavy for the, I mean, we know, but for the participants, it should be. Yeah, please go ahead quick.
if you
Yeah.
want to upload any tabular data, that also you can do it in GraphDB. So you have to go to import and click on tabular data. And you can use this, you can see TSV, CSV, Excel, JSON, XML, RDF, whichever file format you want, you can upload it here. You need to choose the file, and I think the file is shared with you, that Excel data has been shared, that only you have to upload it here.
Remember here that this,
Tabular data.
yeah. Remember that this onto refine actually exactly the same that yesterday in our keynote 2 that Professor Mukhopadhyay was presenting, that he was talking about Google Refine. This onto refine actually is the same tool. This is also the Google Refine only. Only thing is that this particular software guys, they tried to improve the user interface a little bit. Okay. Otherwise, it's basically the same tool, same Open Refine. Here, its name has been changed to Onto Refine. but it's basically the same. So same functionalities, the one that you saw yesterday, like you was doing couple of data manipulation things, so you can do the same thing here.
Yeah, so you can upload this. You have to choose the file here and you can upload the tabular data. Tabular data, you can upload it and click on next. Once you do this, you can preview your data here and see that there are what are the column names and how many rows are there, entity, roll number, given name. These are all the column names. Yeah, this is the same data that you used in the previous session. Once you can see the preview, you have to click here on right hand side. There is an option of create project. You need to click here. I think all of you are here with me. So
Yeah,
this,
so yeah, the idea, just to explain that what exactly we are doing here is not just only for, of course, these functionalities are like that, how you want to use this tool, right? So you want to manipulate your Excel data, and so you can do it either on your Google Refine directly, because you can directly install that, and or if you want, like you have GraphDB already, so you have this Onto Refine also inside it, so anything is fine. So it's the same thing, same functionalities, more or less the interfaces are same, the same language also it use, like Grail language you need to use if you want to manipulate data little in a programmatical way. So but the thing is that here what we are going to show you here is not actually about the data manipulation, data curation and all, because that's not really part of this workshop, or at least for this. So we are not getting into that details of the data curation, data manipulation part. But what we are going to show you here is basically producing the RDF data, that from your Excel file. Like in the last session, we have shown that how to integrate your data with the existing schema. Okay. And we produce that, how the knowledge graph we can create. So here we are going to show you how to create a simple RDF data. Okay. So from this tabular data, we are going to show you the RDF data. Okay. Yeah, please, Jyotima, go ahead.
yeah. So here you can, if you want to make some small changes that you can do, there are all the features of Open Refine are there. Here you can transpose the columns, edit cells if you go and you see common transforms. If you want to change it to uppercase, lowercase, these are all there. And if you go here and if you want, if the data is too big and if you want to see that how many unique entities it has, like city has Kolkata, Durgapur, Bangalore, and this Bardoli. So you click here and click on Faceit and text Faceit. You will see here that two people are from Bangalore, one from Durgapur, one from Kolkata. These kind of manipulations and plots also you can produce here. So I think all of you are here. Sir, shall I proceed?
Yeah. I think that we saw.
So,
Yeah.
once you click on this RDF mapping, there is an option of edit RDF mapping. And you click on this. So you can see this interface in front of you. So here you need to map the tabular data into RDF form. Map the relationship between the entities, columns. So all of you have this interface.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So now, as we need a unique value to map the columns, so we will use record ID here. You need to click on edit option and click on record ID. and okay.
So
And for
here
yeah.
one thing just before we proceed, so one thing here, remember that this totally depends on your the again this data modeling skill, because this is not something that automatically is going to happen, because you remember here that we don't have any data model. Okay, so what right now that she is going to show you, that it's basically that how you want your different data points to be captured in your RDF file, and there actually no model exists. So possibly we are going to follow that whatever we have on our tabular data we consider, and we try to model in the same way. Okay, yeah, you please go ahead.
Yeah, so for the predicate, record ID is a kind of, as we are mapping record ID to entity.
Oh,
Record ID is a type of person. So for type mapping, we use this. Or you can directly type A there, it will come for type mapping. That means record ID is a type of person. So here also you need to click on edit and go constant. So here you need to choose FOF.
yeah, anything, any vocabulary that you want to use, you can mention that. It's not a problem. So you can load it and you can use it.
Person. So now if you click on both, you can see that record ID has mapped Arun is a type of person. You can see below.
Yeah,
Arun.
see, this first triple is created already. So Arun is a type of person. Yeah, maybe you can show the second one, and
Yes.
then they will have a better, yeah. So add only the
So
predicate, yeah.
for that, I'll have to create a name prefix into,
Yeah, you can give into
yeah.
prefix, yeah. Use, yes, I'll tell you the HTTP.
Triangular.
No,
Yeah.
triangular bracket you have to add. You have to add triangular bracket.
Yeah.
Give a space, give a space.
Okay.
Give a space, yeah. And then HTTP :/ www.isibank.ac.in /ns/into. Yeah, then give a hash,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so this URI, of course, you can give anything, because we don't have anything, any URI existence. So since it is there, so we are giving, but you can give even example.org. That also will work for you.
So I will map the second entity. I'll drag roll number here, the second column. Autocomplete, I'll turn it on. We have to choose IRI here or
Yeah,
literal.
literal, yeah.
Yeah.
Literal you add.
Yeah.
And give the.
Okay. So this you can see, as you can preview it, into roll number is mapped to the MSLIS. This was the roll number of Arun. Yeah. So like this, I'll do one more.
column. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the way we map subclass. Also, we can map here. Like I'll upload the JSON and show you. JSON file has been sent to you also.
You have added that in the, put it that mapping file, JSON mapping file. Yeah, we are uploading that into that same, and Udaya will be sharing that link again.
Yes.
Yeah, so all of you have to now download one more file, that which actually that what she was showing you step by step, but again, you know, it takes time to type them. So we have a ready-made file, so that we are going to share with you. So please download that file, mapping file, and you can just upload that. That will be like a JSON file. Got it? Okay, can you repeat RDF last task? Edit RDF. What they mean? Mr. Jaikanathan, can you please unmute yourself and ask your doubt, because it's not clear from the chat box that what exactly. If you don't mind, can you please unmute yourself and just speak out?
Yes, sir. I got the point, because I just need to edit this RDF format. Okay, I got the point. No problem.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So this is how, when you upload the JSON file, this is how your all the relations, all the columns will come.
Yeah, so this actually shows that, so what you have to do, just after you download that JSON file, just use click on that upload JSON and then select that file. So on that view, it will be uploaded. So you can see that entire mapping, which we already have done. And so you will be able to see that. Okay, so that, you know, you can do it quickly. So we have done actually a lot of complicated, I mean, you may not need all these things. We tried to make it more complex. So that may not required. Okay. Yeah.
We can map subclass also using RDFS subclass.
Yeah, that we showed like in the last session, like we are creating the subclass, and also here also we can create the class subclass relationships. Okay, so all the things are possible actually here also. Yeah, now I think you can generate this RDF data,
Yeah.
and we can
Once you
show the
are,
output.
yeah, once you're done with this, you just save it, and there is an RDF button. Just click it, and here, see, my file is downloaded.
Yeah, this
RDF file.
is turtle format. Yeah, you can show that text in text editor. Yeah, you see that. So here is the raw data, which is an RDF data, right? So your data is ready, and now you can publish it how you want. You want to put it back to your DBpedia, GraphDB, put it. If you want to share to some repositories, like of course those ontology repositories, they won't accept it because they are basically for ontologies. But again, if you want to have your own service, or you want to upload that data with the GraphDB on the cloud, or you want to put it on the link data cloud, so you can even put it there. Okay. So your data is ready, and here the publication platform is ready. So now you can do whatever, you can do anything that you want. So yeah, maybe Jyotima, you can quickly show that, go to this, create a repository, RDF
Okay.
repository, and just upload the same data, and just so that that's ready for this to visualize and to make a query. We can give a very basic query. I'm typing it on the chat box. You can just copy paste.
Okay. Okay, so I created a new repository, and I am uploading the result that the mapped RDF data that we created from the tabular data, that I'm uploading it here.
Yeah, this is just a basic query, so you can just use it.
Okay. I
I
imported.
have to add one more thing there. One more thing, just I have to add one more information there.
Yes.
So just wait for it. Huh? Yeah, so this two prefixes that later on I have forwarded you one. Okay, you have already so what you do, just copy that query, that main query with the prefix into
Yeah.
also you have. So just copy the
Yes.
select XY where X key Y, that key, just select that part. That would be sufficient.
What is this?
Yeah, you can just execute. No, this is not required. That prefix is not required. Last one.
Yeah.
Remove that.
Remove it.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah, so now you run the query. X, Y, and select. Spelling is correct. Sorry, so you keep the curly braces. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that type. Yeah. Now you just run.
Yeah.
So see that whatever the data we had in that Excel data, that we can see all of them are listed here.
We can even download our query result as, there
Maybe
are so
as a
many
CSV. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all right. So
Yeah. I'll stop sharing
anything
this.
anything comes on that Google chat, you just click on that.
Okay.
Just Google chat
Chat config.
chat config.
So for chat, this thing we need.
No, of course it
numeric
won't come
value.
anything. I know that.
Yeah.
So just to run that. So nothing is coming.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah. So any.
Stop sharing my screen, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are done. So